You know, over the last decade or so, the entire world of nicotine has just been turned on its head. We've moved way beyond traditional cigarettes. Now we've got this explosion of new gadgets, vapes, e-cigarettes, heated tobacco products. They're literally everywhere. And they all showed up with this huge game-changing promise. But the real question is, has that promise actually held up? Okay, so let's get right into it. When the first vapes hit the market way back in 2007, the marketing was honestly brilliant. They were sold as this clean, modern, and this is the key part, a fundamentally healthier way to get your nicotine. The message couldn't have been clearer. All the satisfaction with a fraction of the harm. So that was the sales pitch. But now, after more than a decade of these things being out in the wild, we've got a ton of scientific research to look at. So the big question we're tackling in this explainer is, what does the cold, hard evidence actually tell us about what these products do to our bodies? To really answer that, we've got to be super clear about what we're even talking about. Because the market today really comes down to two main types of devices, and they work in totally different ways. Okay, so on one side, you've got your e-cigarettes, what we all call vapes. These things heat up a special liquid, the e-liquid, that's got nicotine and all sorts of flavorings in it, and that creates the aerosol you inhale. Then, on the other side, you have heated tobacco products, or HTPs. These are different. They use actual real tobacco sticks, and they heat them up to about 350 degrees Celsius. Now that's hot, but it's just below the point of burning, so it releases a nicotine vapor without the smoke. So really, it boils down to this. Vapes heat a liquid, HTPs heat real tobacco. Right, so the big selling point for both of these products is this idea of harm reduction. The whole concept is that if you're an adult who already smokes cigarettes, making the switch to one of these devices is a less harmful path forward. And look, there is some data out there that seems to back this up, a lot of it coming from studies connected to the industry itself. This research shows that when smokers switch completely over to heated tobacco, you can see some improvements in certain health markers. But here's the catch, and it is a huge one. These benefits are only seen when you compare it to continuing to smoke cigarettes. Because as soon as independent scientists change that comparison group and look at HTP users versus people who don't smoke at all, the story completely changes. The evidence shows these products are nowhere near harmless. They're actually linked to some serious negative effects on the heart and the lungs. It just goes to show you, the comparison you make is absolutely everything. So enough with the promises. Let's pivot and dig into the reality. Let's look at the specific harms that the science has actually been able to document. One of the scariest risks that's emerged, specifically from vaping, is this condition called EVALI. It's a really serious lung injury that is directly tied to using e-cigarette or vaping products. It can show up fast, get really critical, and sadly, it has even been fatal for some people. And we're not talking about something subtle here. The symptoms of EVALI often look just like a really nasty case of pneumonia. People show up with a bad cough, they can't catch their breath, but it also comes with things like fever and chills, and even some pretty intense stomach issues, like nausea and diarrhea. And it's not just the lungs. Check this out. The immediate hit to your cardiovascular system is, well, it's pretty striking. Just seconds after you use one, heated tobacco, e-cigarettes, and regular old cigarettes all cause your heart rate and your blood pressure to spike. It's true the new products don't have the carbon monoxide you get from burning, but they put the exact same immediate stress right on your heart. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is not some fringe idea. A 2023 study in a major research journal put it bluntly, using heated tobacco products causes immediate, harmful health effects to both your respiratory and your cardiovascular systems, period. Okay, so we've established there are clear health risks, no doubt about it. But what about that other huge promise? The idea that these devices are a great tool to finally help people quit smoking for good. Well, if you look at how people actually use these things in the real world, the story gets really interesting. Researchers found that a whopping 68%, that's more than 2/3 of people who use heated tobacco products, aren't using them exclusively. They're dual users. That means they're still smoking regular cigarettes right alongside their new device. So they didn't really quit, did they? They just added a new habit. But it gets even wilder. A massive meta-analysis that pulled together all the data on quitting found something pretty shocking. It turns out that smokers who start using heated tobacco products are often less likely to quit cigarettes than smokers who don't use them at all. So think about that. Instead of being an off-ramp from smoking, these things might actually be a roadblock that makes it even harder to quit. And all of this brings us to what might just be the biggest, most troubling part of this whole story. the effect these new products are having on young people, on kids who had never smoked before. The numbers here are just wow. They're impossible to ignore. This isn't a small trend. Multiple huge reviews have all come to the same conclusion. Young people who use e-cigarettes are about 3 times more likely to eventually start smoking actual cigarettes compared to kids who don't vape. And the problem doesn't stop with smoking. The research also shows that youth vaping is tied to a whole bunch of other bad outcomes. We're talking a higher risk of getting diagnosed with asthma or making asthma they already have even worse. On top of that, it's linked to using other substances like alcohol and marijuana, and even connected to poor mental health and symptoms of depression. I mean, listen to how one of the top researchers who reviewed all the evidence put it. She said, the consistency is striking. This isn't just one study here or there, it's a clear, consistent pattern that shows up again and again and again. So, when you take a step back and look at everything we've talked about, where does that leave us? Well, it puts us smack in the middle of a really tough public health dilemma. We're trying to balance that original promise against a pretty harsh reality.
Let's just break it down. The promise was a safer alternative to smoking. The reality, documented damage to our lungs, our hearts, even our cells. The promise was an effective way to quit. The reality, sky-high rates of people using both, and evidence that it might actually make quitting less likely. And the biggest one, the promise was a product for adult smokers. The reality, it's become a proven gateway for a whole new generation to get hooked on nicotine.
And that really is the central conflict here, isn't it? On one hand, you have a device that might help some current smokers reduce their harm. But on the other hand, you have that same device acting as an on-ramp to addiction for the next generation. And that leaves us with a really tough final question, a true public health crossroads with no easy map. When a product's potential benefit for one group has to be weighed against a proven harm to a completely different, younger group, how do we as a society even begin to choose which path is the right one?